Traffic stops are among the most unpredictable and potentially dangerous encounters for both law enforcement and civilians. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Experts we spoke with say it's the uncertainty of who is being approached and how a situation might escalate that could influence an officer's split-second judgment during life-or-death situations.
According to the nonprofit advocacy group Mapping Police Violence, in 2024, more than 1,200 people were killed by police, and 12% of those deaths involve people stopped for alleged traffic violations.
While the country's lower courts have been split in how they analyze officer use of force in fatal shootings, a 2016 traffic stop has now prompted the Supreme Court to weigh in.
It's a decision that reshapes precedent for the country, and as reporter Heather Graff explains, gives one mother a long-awaited step toward justice.
Before we begin, we do want to warn you, some of the images you are about to see may be disturbing to some viewers.
On the side of this toll road near Houston, the police encounter escalated quickly. For mother Janice Hughes, the dashcam video is difficult to watch.
That I just can't. I think I may have watched it twice. He was probably 24 in this picture.
According to legal documents, in 2016, a Harris County deputy constable pulled over Hughes' son, 24-year-old Ashton Barnes, after his rental car was flagged for suspected toll violations.
By all accounts, should that have been a routine traffic stop?
By all accounts, yes ma'am. Should have been. He didn't have to be dead, by no means.
In the video, Barnes tells Officer Roberto Felix Jr. he doesn't have identification on him. Rather than exiting the vehicle when instructed, he started to drive away, and Officer Felix jumped onto the car's door sill. We're stopping the video at this point, but you'll hear the officer fire twice, fatally wounding Barnes, who died at the scene. Following the deadly shooting, an internal investigation by Harris County's Constable Office found Officer Felix didn't violate procedure, and a review by the Houston Police Department said the shooting appears to be justified. No criminal charges were filed. A decade later, Hughes says the incident still haunts her.
Yes, it still brings tears to my eyes when I think about it.
In 2017, she filed a lawsuit alleging Officer Felix used excessive force that violated her son's constitutional rights.
He didn't do nothing.
The case worked its way through federal court, eventually making it to the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. In 2024, the Fifth Circuit upheld a lower court's ruling that Officer Felix's actions were justified given the immediate threat he faced at the time of the shooting. The decision was based on the moment of threat, a legal doctrine that essentially boils down to this. Does the time during the traffic stop before Officer Felix was on a moving car factor into the court's decision on whether his use of deadly force was justified?
The fact that he jumped onto the car and put himself into danger is the issue here.
Hughes' attorney, Adam Fomby, argues what happened before Officer Felix was on the doorsill of the car is relevant.
Judge Higginbotham from the Fifth Circuit even said, if he had looked at the totality of the circumstances, he would have found the officer was at fault for this incident.
And there are other judges who may have agreed. To explain, there are 12 regional courts of appeals in the federal system. In deadly force cases, 8 of them have considered an officer's actions leading up to the use of force when issuing their rulings. But the other 4, including the Fifth Circuit, would apply the moment of threat standard, which focuses solely on the instant the officer used force. Georgetown law professor Christy Lopez says she believes some circuits have used the moment of threat doctrine to protect law enforcement.
It was really a way, in my view, to ensure that courts weren't being too hard on officers who get into these difficult, tumultuous situations.
But these differing opinions created a legal split, so in an effort to establish a uniform standard nationwide, the Supreme Court stepped in.
Barnes versus Felix.
Hearing arguments in January 2025. In May of 2025, the Supreme Court unanimously rejected the moment of threat doctrine, meaning lower courts must now consider the time leading up to an officer's use of deadly force when deciding if it was reasonable.
Every single officer that's trained is going to know how the Supreme Court found on this case. It's going to affect how they interact with everyday people on the streets.
Lopez says it's a step toward greater accountability for law enforcement.
What we find is that when we hold officers accountable for the force that they use, it often results in better training and better policies that keeps officers safer as well as members of the public safer.
Accountability is not really a problem in law enforcement.
But some in the policing community caution against questioning an officer's split-second decision.
You should look at the totality of the circumstances, but you should not go back and say, wait a minute, this violation of policy or this tactical error somehow contributed to the danger and therefore it does excuse the behavior of the suspect.
Retired law enforcement officer Kevin Lawrence is the executive director of the Texas Municipal Police Association. He says he understands how an officer could fear for their life in a situation like Felix encountered.
If I let that guy keep going and get up to 75, 80 miles an hour of me hanging on the side of the car, there is no doubt my life is in danger.
And in your opinion, does that make the use of force justifiable?
Yes, I think it's a reasonable use of force.
While they made their decision about the moment of threat doctrine, the Supreme Court chose not to rule on whether Officer Felix created the danger that ultimately led to Barnes's death. The justices left that question for the lower courts to decide.
In the end, they went with this very narrow opinion and did not say anything about whether and how courts should consider officer-created jeopardy.
But during the proceedings, Justice Brett Kavanaugh reminded courts that law enforcement doesn't have the benefit of 20/20 hindsight.
An officer does not get the time we've spent here today to make the decision.
It's been a tough journey.
Janice Hughes says time hasn't healed her grief, but it has been an important teacher.
I have learned to obtain patience.
And she's grateful that patience has finally paid off.
I think he would say, Mom, you did it all. And that's the ultimate result, yeah.
The Supreme Court's ruling sets a precedent that will likely have a significant impact on police use of force cases moving forward.
But it didn't mark the end of Barnes versus Felix. The justices sent the case back to the lower courts, asking them to consider the reasonableness of the shooting using the lengthier time frame they prescribed.
Legal representatives for Officer Felix in Harris County declined to speak with us, but addressing the Supreme Court in January 2025, Felix's attorney said he, quote, reasonably believed that his life was in imminent danger. That conclusion should end this case.